Buongiorno. In my last session, I explained what we went through to get Lucy's Permesso di Soggiorno at the Questura in Lucca. It was good for 4 years, and her Carta di Identità was good for 10 years. Well, her Permesso, PDS, expired in the spring of 2021, but we had filed it safely away and didn't realize it was out of date until the spring of 2023. We were 2 years late. I thought about trying to blame this on COVID, which may have explained why we didn't renew it in 2020 or even 2021, but COVID was not an issue in 2022, so I didn't think this excuse would fly. As things turned out, it was not a big deal. We made our way to the Questura, once again bypassing the recommended route of going to a post office to make an appointment. I should mention again that I'm not making recommendations for other people. I'm just telling you what we did. But I can say that for the second time, this worked. We just showed up, got in line, and explained what we wanted. I just asked Gemini AI what the current procedure is, and I was told to go to the post office and get an information packet, fill it out, and provide the correct documentation, and then return it, and pay a processing fee of around €100 for the initial PDS and about €30 for a renewal. Then the post office will give you a receipt, an appointment, date, and time. I had just figured out both times that I'd start at the Questura, and if they had told me to go to the post office first, I would have done so. So, at the Questura, I usually do the talking because my Italian is slightly better than Lucy's. I showed the clerk my old Permesso and said we had come to renew it. She immediately pointed out that it was expired. I didn't try to make any excuses. I just said, yes, it's true, but we still want to renew it. I was prepared to make a vague statement about things being difficult because of COVID, but it didn't turn out to be necessary. She just gave me a list of what documents were needed and an appointment time of 3 weeks away. One of the items on the list was a receipt from the post office for the processing fee, so we didn't completely avoid this step. What were the other items we needed? Copies of our passports, Italian identity cards, a certified estratto of our marriage registered in Pescia, and proof of our residency and stato di famiglia from Monte Carlo. We also obtained a marca da bollo at a tobaccaio. The last item on the list was proof of reddito or income. This proved to be the only problem item. I printed out our Social Security benefit verification letters, and I translated them myself with some help from Google and DeepL Translate. Actually, there was one other problem. When we returned for our appointment, this time the Questura was packed. We had arrived 40 minutes before our appointment time, thinking erroneously that maybe we could just get in line and get it done early. We did wait in line, but we were still way back in the line when our appointment time came. We were in danger of the Questura closing before they got to us. We noticed that the clerk just took the next person in line and never asked if anyone had an appointment. So I sidled up to the sportello window and waited 10 minutes for the clerk to finish with the person at the head of the line. And then I thrust my appointment card up to the glass. It worked. She told the next person in line that I had priority, and she took our documents. Everything checked out perfectly, except for the reddito, the income. I don't know why, but she didn't like our Social Security benefit verification letters. It might have been because I hadn't used an official translator, but I don't see why that would be so important. The numbers would be the same in English or Italian. She could check the figures on the original documents. No, these would not do. She could still give Lucy a Permesso for 5 years, though, but if we wanted one for 10 years, I'd have to go to our bank in Pescia and get an estratto, an extract of my bank account. This was on a Friday, so I had to wait until Monday to go to the bank. All they could really give me at the bank was a document proving I had a bank account. I took it back to the Questura. Still not good enough, because it doesn't show our income, just that we have a bank account. I went home and printed out some bank statements from my American bank account, because that's where our Social Security checks are deposited. I took them in the next day. A different clerk was at the window. She didn't like it that the statements were in English. Besides, she said, Lucy's Permesso was already in progress, and it was too late to change anything. So we resigned ourselves to the 5-year Permesso, and we waited. We did learn that there was a website where we could enter our case number and find out when Lucy's Permesso was ready. And when we went back in a few months, we couldn't even get inside the door to the Questura. They were locked, and everyone had to wait outside until they were called in. Presumably now they had changed the procedure and you had to have an appointment. I don't know. But we had to wait, and I was finally able to get the attention of an official and told him we had just come to get Lucy's Permesso, which we had learned online was ready for pickup. No, you have to come on a Saturday morning between 9 and 1 p.m. Would we need an appointment? No, he said. Just come. We decided to come around 11, when we assumed the lines would have thinned out, and we actually only had to wait about 15 minutes. While waiting, we talked to another American who was also waiting for his Permesso. We told him this was our 6th trip to the Questura, and he said that was good. It usually took many more trips than 6. Of course, we also had to go to the post office to pay the application fee, the Tobacaio for the Marca da Bolo, the Comune in Monte Carlo for the Stato di Famiglia, the Comune in Pescia for the Estratto di Matrimonio, and the bank for that useless certification of our bank account. And of course, we had to go to the copisteria several times to make copies. So that was about a dozen separate trips. And now, after a short wait, we finally had the Permesso in hand. And as we went outside to take a photo, we got the best surprise of all. It was good for 10 years, not 5. I can only guess that the clerk figured out that we would be bringing in our proof of income eventually, so she had sent it in for processing with the 10 years checked. Who knows? Meanwhile, the American guy behind us in the line had a mighty disappointment. He couldn't pick up his new PDS because he hadn't brought in his old one. It would take 2 hours to drive home and come back again, so he would have to wait until the following week, probably the following Saturday. We, however, celebrated with a cappuccino and a chocolate beignet. As we were enjoying our treats, Lucy and I would pause, look at each other, and repeatedly say, 10 years, 10 years. And that's our story. As I said, it's not a blueprint for how to do this correctly. I personally think there are probably variations from Questura to Questura, and probably even within each Questura, from one clerk to another. That's common in Italy. Have any of you had experiences getting a Permesso di Soggiorno? Feel free to share your thoughts by making a comment. I also encourage you to like and subscribe, which will encourage me to make more videos. Va bene, a presto ragazzi, ci vediamo alla prossima.